Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Warren from the Paladin Journal, and we're going to take another swerve with our content. What I want to talk about today is the 2000 point tournament that I attended a few weeks ago on the 19th of November at my LGS in Dubai. This is Back to Games at Town Center. Please check them out if you guys can. Fantastic crew, and the event was amazing. And if you have been following me on social media for the last I don't know 2 months, then you've seen parts of this army come about in those months, especially in the last days leading up to the tournament, which like the end of October and the first week or so of November before I left for my trip. Now, this 2000 point army, as you can kind of maybe see in the big screenshot there, so this is all White Scars, although a homebrew chapter. And I'm just using the White Scars transfers, not the transfers, sorry, the White Scars upgrades that came out during late 8th edition when they redid the Space Marines book and did all the new supplements and stuff. So as you can see, there's a Land Raider, although I'm using this Crusader as a Land Raider because I really wanted the anti-tank firepower that comes on the Land Raider, but I do not own one for some stupid reason. So I was using this guy instead as a proxy. I have a Chapter Master. He used to be a Chapter Master, but now he's just a Captain in Terminator armor. So this is a Marnius Calgar model base. I've converted one arm to have like a spear or a glaive or whatever you want to call it, and the other, instead of having the bolters on it, it's been converted to have a melta weapon instead. I got 5 Terminators. There's an assault cannon there, 4 storm bolters, and everyone has a chain fist. Uh, I actually ran this as a 10-man squad, so 2 assault cannons and everybody else has a chain fist and storm bolters. There were 6 Blade Guard veterans, standard loadouts, and Korsaro Khan was leading the army. Although my warlord was actually, I believe it was the Terminator captain. And then I had a jump captain with a Thunderhammer and Storm Shield. There was a squad of intercessors that you see in the front that's painted on the right there. Uh, they've been built as intercessors, but I actually ran them as assault intercessors, and they were marked differently because they all had unpainted backpacks. They were primed black, but I left them off because I knew I was gonna change them when I got some jump packs in, which I will be having in the evening or something like that. So behind them, the 5 primed black guys, those are actual assault intercessors, and they were run as assault intercessors. And behind them are 10 regular intercessors who I ran as 2 squads of 5. Behind them are 2 predators. These are for my Deathwatch army, although I don't have any predators yet for this army, for the White Scars, so I just use them, as stand-ins for that full loadout of blast cannons and storm bolter, 100 kilo missile, that kind of stuff. Now, jumping back in the front, as you can see, there are 3 Outriders and 3 of the old bikes. Now, I ran this as a full-size squad of bikes. I did not have enough Outriders, so they did. I had to proxy these 3 guys in there, but they run as a squad of 6. Initial variants of the list included a chaplain on a bike as well, but I cut him out because I didn't really see a lot of value in investing points to that model for the army when the Outriders, they cannot really do much on their own. They don't have a lot of melee power, unlike the bike squads of old, which are amazing. Chef's kiss. And then behind the bikers, you can see all the Terminators, the 5 which you can see that are fully painted and everything, and behind them 5 proxy ones from my Deathwatch army. Then I have 3 Eliminators. They were all painted up, and I did this neat thing where I painted them with lava effects on their cloaks, which actually, give me a second and I'll pull them up right here. Let's see, I should have pics of these guys. So I'll replace a Blade Guard with those guys. This is a good one. So as you can see there, these are the guys. And these guys were fun to paint. I'm not gonna lie. I I was really apprehensive whether I was gonna be able to pull this off, but thankfully I did, and I'm really glad that I did because it doesn't look good in the image because I'm not a good photographer, although I'm kind of trying to be now. But if you hold the models in your hands, they'll look amazing. And I'm really glad that I got to do this for these guys. And, you know, they didn't do a whole lot in any of my 3 games, sadly, but, you know, they looked good doing it. So there is that. So, anyways, so that was the whole army. Corsaro Khan was riding in the Land Raider with the 6 Blade Guard. The Terminators with the Terminator Captain, they were held in Deep Strike. Everybody else was deployed on the board. And that was pretty much my standard for all the games that I did. Oh, yeah, the Jump Back Captain went with the Jump Cessors, my proxy guys. Now, a couple of cool things. The Terminator Captain on his own, the ability that he gives to the unit that he's leading, which is a Terminator Squad or a Terminator Assault Squad, you can reroll your charge rolls, which I thought was going to be a lot handy in dealing with any problematic tanks or monsters. If when I deep strike, I shoot them up and then try to get into hand to hand, that would be handy. That would be cool. And then maybe I would have the command reroll to help along that. The jump at captain, he had the enhancement Portents of Wisdom, I believe it's called, which allows him and his unit to reroll the advanced rolls, which I thought it was really good, but I was running all of these guys as Stormlands, so just pointing that out, which I thought was going to be really helpful, but and pretty much I think it only happened once, and I was like, yeah, I guess it's whatever. So basically, that was the list, and I had pretty much standard deployment in all 3 of my games. However, the ruin rules have changed quite a bit from 8th edition to now, and my first game against a fantastic opponent, Gid, who was playing strong. He was playing Firestorm Assault, Blood Angels, with a fantastic list. I think pretty much all his models were painted really good. Um, he had to spend a little bit of time early on helping me walk me through how the mission decks work and some of the terrain rules and everything. And I gotta say, I struggled with the terrain rules in all 3 games, especially in the second game. But I had another great opponent, and he helped me make some decisions, and he gave me some really good tips. Although, I'm sorry to say, dude, he's probably not gonna stick with me because I have no idea when I'm gonna do my next game. It's probably gonna be like a year from now or 2 years. I have no idea. We could very well be playing, I don't know, like Space Marines 2.0 or something by then. Whatever is the case, the game could change so much by then. Whenever I get to play next, and then third game, I made some really stupid choices in deployment, and it was against Chaos Space Marines, and I got punished hard for that against another old friend, Omar. And but again, I had a lot of fun in this tournament. I loved throwing dice again after such a long time. Pretty much 5 years, almost on the dot, I think. And it was like, I really miss this. It's all good to build up all these models and to paint them up. Although painting's not my strong suit, as you can see, I mostly deal with contrast these days. But it was like I really missed doing this. I really missed pushing my tanks and my marines up the board and just doing stuff, because it's like it's something that I used to do so much back in the day in 4th and 5th. Like I was at my LGS almost every weekend, you know, sometimes even on both days, Saturday and Sunday. And I would be there almost the whole day until the store closed. And I was just like carrying around my huge my army cases, and it's just like miss those days. And this was like pretty great. Of course, units that performed well. There's not a particular standout unit for that. Although I do have to say that the Land Raider really surprised me with how durable it is. Like in my game one against Blood Angels, it stood up to a lot of firepower from a repulsor and from a gladiator, but it stood at like 2 wounds or maybe 1 wound, something like that, for 2 turns, and it got the job done in deploying my units on the board, and it took out the repulsor in the end, along with some help from other units, the predators, and I think the Land Raider surprised me the most, and that felt like it was such a great moment in pretty much all my games because Land Raider is such an iconic tank for not just for Space Marines, but for 40k in general. And when a unit like that does well, or it surprises you, it's like yes, good. So yes, amazing unit to take. I recommend in at least for casual games, definitely recommend doing that. The Korsarikon and Blade Guard Death Ball didn't quite work out because they're mostly like they don't hit hard enough. They don't have enough attacks. They don't have enough punching power with the AP on the damage. So it was like, in second game, they actually contributed to taking down a tank commander. It was against Krieger Imperial Guard army, which was a really fun game. That's the only game that I won on that day. So I lost to Blood Angels. I won against Astrometh's Harm. I lost to Chaos Space Marines, and in that game, the Death Ball helped kill some of the helped kill a tank commander, just to finish him off. Although I lost. I think Korsarikon actually died because he'd already taken too many wounds, and the tank blew up. Did way too much mortal wounds to my units around in the area. But he did kill an engine seer, and I got a CP out of that from his ability. But yeah, the Blade Guard veterans didn't impress me too much. I thought they would be really killy, but they weren't. And I think it's mostly because, you know, I was just not using them properly, but also because Stormlands doesn't really fit the aesthetic. Like the benefit you get from Stormlands is you can advance or fall back and then charge, which normally units cannot do, but the chapter trait or the detachment trait allows you to do that. So that was a bit of, I felt let down. But the Predators and the Land Raider together, they did their job, what they were supposed to do. And as I said, the Land Raider had some great moments. I think the Predators, they survived to the end in both of my first games. The first game and the second game. The third game, I believe they both died, which was unfortunate. I just got outplayed massively, which I deserved. The Eliminators were my worst unit, I think by far, because they really didn't do much. Their weapons aren't that killy. I got a couple of wounds off some characters, but they ended up being a complete waste of points. I could have used that in some other units much better, I feel, and they were the worst performing ones. Now my troops, the 1x5 assault intercessors and the 2x5 intercessors, they really didn't do much in any of the 3 games. Like, yeah, in second game they helped get me some objectives and help me score points, but they are not the kind of unit that I really wanted to be using as objective grabbers in my home base, as it turned out in hindsight, especially because the solar intercessors, they just got stuck in my deployment zone game 1 and game 2. There really wasn't much they could do against an army that was mostly tanks, hellhounds, and Punisher, Gatling cannon, Lehman Russes. They just couldn't do anything because they don't have their individual weapon profiles anymore. It's all condensed, and it was just like, man, I probably could have spent those points as well as something else, although exactly what I'm not sure. So that was a bit of a letdown. The Blade Guard were a bit of a letdown. The Bikers, again, they surprised me. They didn't actually accomplish too much in any of the games. They took out a few models and some units. And in game two, they were absolutely beasts. However, when tanking fire, because I just ran them straight up the grill into the opposing player's zone, and I was charging. I believe I was charging turn one even, because they can auto advance, which means they're already moving 18 inches, and then they charge on top of that. That was like, it's a huge threat range. And which again reminds me, if Games Workshop would just let us have all these cool rules for Outriders, as we did with the old bike squads and special weapons and melee weapons and stuff, this could be such a great unit, but it's being held back by these lack of choices, which is a huge bugbear of mine when I was making this army. And I've talked about it on social media recently as well, and even before that a little bit. Although, you know, I don't get much traction on that in some of the chat groups. But they performed above and beyond in that game too, and they were really good. They helped tie down a huge portion of the army because I destroyed a heavy weapon squad, went straight up into a 20-man infantry squad or whatever it was that my opponent had, and they were just like, yeah, we're gonna dominate this little area and score some points for you, and we're just gonna take all this fire so with other units behind you don't. And then that brings me up to my Terminators, who they were killy in shooting, but when charging they didn't do much. Game one, I didn't even get to see them play because Guy had to spend so much time. So we ended up wasting a lot of his time and my time because I had to learn about the new terrain rules and some of the other interactions and stuff with the mission decks and whatnot, that we only got to play 1.5 battle rounds. We didn't get to the bottom of turn two, and the game ended before that. So these guys couldn't come out and they didn't do much. Although I believe if they had, they would have done work because I had a lot of great targets and I was looking at Marines and all this. Marines don't do well with masked firepower, and with a full 10-man squad of Terminators with 2 assault cannons and backed up by all the chain fists, I believe I could have done some serious work there, especially with my chapter master. But game two, they did some work. They managed to lock down another part of my opponent's deployment zone because I got straight up in on turn two, took out a full squad of Kriegers, and I was charging stuff left and right, but didn't quite work out in the end because unfortunately, like I said, they don't deal with mass firepower, and when you're facing up against Gatling cannon, Lehman Russes, and all these other like tanks that the guard can bring, it was like, oh man, this sucks. And then game three was, like I said, I got punished for bad deployment, and I did some work here and there, but mostly it was a wipe, pretty much, which I'm fine with. I'll learn a few things. Hopefully, if I get to play at some point within the next year, I'll remember all of that. But again, it was an amazing 3 games. Loved everything about it, and looking back, there are some things I would definitely change. Like I need to bring up that Outrider squad up to full strength with just Outriders. I need to get more Terminators. The Blade Guard, they might have to go. Karsarikon, he might have to go. Unless they come out with a Karsarikon on bike model, which I don't have no idea why they haven't done. He is like the only character from like 5th edition onwards who, having a special war gear like a bike, he's the only one who's lost it in recent years. Because K1 Shrike, he's been in the main codex for like ages and ages. He gets to keep his jump pack, even though we didn't have a captain on jump pack model for so long with Primaris. And then it's like why isn't it happening? I don't understand. Like, why is GW being so resistant to properly updating their range instead of, just the sculptors being like, hey, we want to do this, so let's do this. And we want to do this, let's do this. Instead of, just looking through the codex, seeing where the deficiencies are in terms of choice. And I stress that word, choice, and filling those gaps up instead of giving us like another heavy weapon intercessor squad or heavy intercessor squad or our 1 millionth lieutenant model, as the meme goes, or stuff like that. It's like there are some things that the Primaris range really need, and we are not getting that. I mean, it's great that we got the jump pack captain finally, and we have assault intercessor with jump packs, but again, choice. Come back to choice, because if you compare the jump intercessors with their old counterparts with the firstborn, the assault squads, first of all, the sergeant could take any number of weapons, melee or shooty, and then the squatters, they could take plasma pistols, they could take flamers or melta guns or plasma guns, whereas now it's just plasma pistols. It's like, yeah, it's great to have 3 plasma pistols in a squad, but if there was a choice, I might want to take flamers as well, melta guns maybe even, however that goes. And of course, the tank aesthetic is so different with the Primaris as well, because it's all grav stuff with them, not the tracked ones like with the firstborn. And again, come to the Land Raider and the Predators. They're iconic. They're used so much. So it's like whatever. So I have some thoughts about how I want to change the army. I'm experimenting with some lists a little bit, although it's all just like theoretical because I keep repeating this. I have no idea what I'm going to play next, but I'm experimenting in the list building with having an apothecary, biologist, with some, what are they called? With some aggressors and a gravis captain to lead them, and doing some other things like assault centurions, which I have a box that needs to be built and whatnot. Maybe go for something a little more shooty, redemptors and Primaris Invictors, Invictor warsuits, and instead of playing Stormlands, because again, Stormlands kind of sucks. Secret. Stormlands sucks. Going with Firestorm Assault or Ironstorm. Maybe I do have a Tech Marine that I've kit bashed a Tech Marine model ages ago, which I can use. He's Primaris, thankfully. And I do have some tanks now. So I have like Liner Crusader here. I have a, what's it called, Repulsor I bought after that first game. I was like, I need to get this model. So I bought a Repulsor, and I'm going to build it as an Executioner as well. What my opponent was using with the Heavy Laser Destroyer looks so good. And eventually, I want to bump up a few things, like get Storm Speeders and get a Gladiator or 2, whatever. So yeah, that's how all of that played out. And like I said, it was a great experience. It was catharsis for my soul, because getting back into the hobby, building all these models and painting all these models, that's child's play, man. It's like I can do this any day, every day. I have so much freedom with it. I have so much stock of stuff. I have entire armies waiting to be assembled that are just sitting in boxes, either new in box or just all the frames put together in bigger boxes and whatnot. I have demons. I have Dark Eldar. I have Eldar. I have Custodes. I have more stuff for my Blood Angels. So many characters to do, and I got so much stuff for Tyranids and Necrons, and going to Age of Sigmar demons. I got Daughters of Cain. I got City of Sigmar to build. It's like, oh, not enough time in the day. But anyways, yeah. So that's it for me, guys. Just be sure to follow me on social media. You can find the links up top. I'm still working on getting my channel history built up for now, so I cannot share links in the channel description or in the video description yet, but be sure that's going to happen very soon. And so hit the subscribe button, please. It helps immensely. Watch the videos. I got so much more stuff coming out, not just for Warhammer, but also for World of Warcraft. and got some more reviews and stuff as well that I want to talk about. And it's a new year, and we're just hitting the Advent season as well. And Christmas is coming up, and so much happening, guys. So much happening. There's so much there's so many TV shows I want to talk about, and I still haven't talked about the last two episodes of Ahsoka, which just lame brain. Just I keep forgetting to do it, and it's like I remember this always happens with me. All these critical things that I need to keep in mind, but I always remember them at the wrong time. And it's always like maybe I should start jotting stuff down, but then I would just forget to read that, I guess, whatever. But anyways, guys, so that's it for me today. Thanks for sticking around, and please give a like to the video and subscribe to the channel. Would be really appreciated. And just keep an eye on my social media for some more stuff, some more projects I'm working on. Like I've just finished a squad of Celestial Sacrosancts for my sister's army. I finished up a new Terminator captain for White Scars, which I can actually show you right here. He's a nice chunky boy. He's a Leviathan Terminator captain who's had a bit of conversion work done on him, a little bit. And I completed some 5 Leviathan Terminators, which I'm going to talk about soon, hopefully. I already talked about it a bit on social media, but I think I want to put that stuff in a video as well. So anyways, that's it from me, guys. See you soon. Bye. Cheers. Bye.